We are here on a cold and rain afternoon in Iowa, but we will soon be in the cozy shop in Hart, Michigan. My name's Liz Colby. I'm here with Practical Farmers of Iowa, and I've got Phoebe Eichhorst hiding in shame as my technical support this afternoon, actually. We will shortly be joined by Sam Hitchcock-Tilton, cultivator enthusiast and organizer of the Midwest Mechanical Weed Control Field Day, and Jared Oman, our featured farmer from Hart, Michigan, who will be showing us around a selection of cultivators in his shop, focusing on camera-guided equipment. But first, like an old movie, we start with the credits at the top. I'd like to thank our organizing partners for their work on this field day. The Midwest Mechanical Weed Control Field Day is an annual event held on farms across the exotic galaxies of Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, and in 2021, the deep space of Iowa. This event brings together vegetable farmers, field crop farmers, and industry reps to demo and discuss the latest in field cultivation equipment. We're glad to be joining virtually this year, but look forward to seeing you in person next September. The Land Connection is a nonprofit based out of Champaign, Illinois. The Land Connection trains farmers in resilient restorative farming techniques, informs the public about sources of our food and why that matters, and works to protect and enhance farmland so that we and generations to come will have clean air and water, fertile soil, and healthy, delicious food. Learn more at thelandconnection.org. And Practical Farmers of Iowa, a farmer-led nonprofit based out of Ames. We specialize in farmer-to-farmer knowledge sharing and farmer-led research with a mission to equip farmers to build resilient farms and communities. All are welcome at PFI, and we invite you to learn more about our organization and access our vast collection of resources at practicalfarmers.org. And this virtual field day will probably run until about 1:20 since we got started a little late. If you have questions for Sam and Jared during the field day, please type them into the comment box on Facebook, and I'll do my best to relay your questions to them during the discussion. And at the conclusion of our event, please give us your feedback via the online survey. We'll post that in the comment box on Facebook. Virtual events are new to us, as you might have seen, and we're excited to learn and continue improving throughout the summer. So now I'd like to turn things over to Sam for a couple more sponsors and then the meat, or the steal, that is, that you all came here to see. Sam?
Hey, my name is Sam Oswald-Tilton, and Midwest Mechanical Weed Control Field Day is very good to have you all here. We bring together farmers, researchers, and companies from all over the world to share and learn about weed control methods and tools. And one of my favorite parts about organizing the field day is meeting wonderful people. So hello to all of you out there. I'm sorry that I can't greet you in person, but I hope to in the future. There have been a lot of changes to the field day this year as we rolled with the COVID punches. Eric Franzenberg from Iowa and Hans Bishop in Illinois put in a lot of time planning to host on-farm demos, which in the end we weren't able to do. But nevertheless, thank you very much to those two engaged and generous farmers. Hopefully you can tell that this field day, even a virtual one, takes a lot of planning. And we could not run an event like this without the monetary support of our sponsors. Please give me a moment to acknowledge them. Sioux Growing Supply from the ginseng fields of northern Wisconsin, offering all manner of specialty crop supplies such as soils, pots, and fertilizer. Cult Crest, precision German engineered weeding tools for all scales. Osborne Quality Seed, independent family-owned seed dealers specializing in vegetable, herb, and flower seeds. Rodale Institute's Midwest Organic Center, providing research to support growers and expand organic acreage in the Midwest. Small Farm Works, supplier of the paper chain system for fast transplanting and precision Japanese weeding tools. Sutton Ag Enterprises, custom made and imported specialty crop equipment from seeders to harvesters, including precision weeding tools. Tillmore, American-made precision weeding tools, as well as tractors and other machinery for small farmers. Treffler and Manit Machine, suppliers of innovative agricultural machines, including the unique Treffler Tine Weeder. Growing for Market magazine, for local food producers to keep you informed about the business and of growing and selling fruits, vegetables, flowers, plants, and herbs. And Vegetable Growers News and Organic Grower Magazine, national magazines to keep you informed on all issues affecting organic and vegetable growers. Okay, now that we have helped to pay the bills, I can welcome you to the main event. Ladies and gentlemen, hailing from Hart, Michigan, on the west side, undefeated in countless weeding bouts, we have Jared Oman. Jared has welcomed me to his farm several times, And when it comes to camera controlled cultivation, I can think of no one better to share their experience, their successes, and their frustrations. So welcome, Jared. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
And Jared's
I'm Jared
kind enough
Ullman.
to join us from his shop there. And I was hoping, Jared, you could just start off by introducing yourself and introducing your farm too.
Yeah. Like Sam said, Jared Ullman from West Michigan in the Oceana County area. And we are mostly a vegetable farm in Western Michigan. And we grow both conventional and organic crops. We've always been conventional. Recently, we decided to dip into the organic side of things. I think we've been doing about 5 years now. And we started a business called Crystal Valley Organics. And we were getting more and more market pressure and opportunities to start growing organic, and we realized the demand is there. So that's kind of why we decided to go that route. And currently, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about the crops we grow. On the conventional side of things, we grow carrots, asparagus, zucchini, a couple types of winter squash, rutabagas, green beans, and asparagus rootstock. And then we also do some corn and wheat. And then organically this year, we are doing carrots, parsnips, zucchini, a couple types of winter squash also, and green beans. So that pretty much sums up what we grow. And yeah, our farm is based, we're kind of near the lakeshore of Lake Michigan, so we have a lot of sandy soils. So we're not dealing with some of the really heavy soils that maybe a lot of you guys are used to. So it's a little bit different, but we're mostly well-drained sand. Pretty much everything's under irrigation. And we also do have some heavier fields. We're pretty spread out, so some fields that we might have up north might be a little heavier or whatnot. So we get a little bit of everything, a little clay, a little heavy ground, a little sand, but for the most part, it's pretty well-drained, sandier soils. So, yeah, Grandpa started the farm way back when, and my dad and uncle are operating it, and now us next generation, there's me and my brother and 3 cousins. So us next generation is trying to follow in our parents' footsteps. So
right on. Thanks, Jared. I can't help but notice that you're standing in front of an interesting looking machine. And today we're supposed to focus on camera guided cultivators. And I thought the first good place to start was just to ask you, why did you guys decide to buy a camera guided cultivator in the first place?
Yeah, so we've always cultivated, even with all our conventional crops, especially with the cucurbits. We've always done cultivation, so it's nothing really new. But once we got into the organic side of things, we realized that we needed something that's a little more precise, and we needed more precision just to kind of save money and save time. And we're running a lot of old cultivators that have been around for years and years and years, and they might be a little wore out and whatnot. So after doing it for a year, we decided that it'd be a good investment to look into something a little more technologically advanced. And so we were looking at these camera guided cultivators and did a little research and ended up with a Cult Crest camera guided one. So,
and I know it can always be, intimidating getting a new piece of machinery, especially one from overseas. What were some of the concerns you have or you had when you were getting that machine in?
Yeah, so our main concern was customer support and parts, being the cultivator is made in Germany, and the hitch so the camera system is made in the UK. So that's, that's something to worry about. We weren't sure, okay, what type of service are we going to get if the camera system goes down? Can we, it's not like we have a technician in the state that can just come up here and help us. So that was definitely a concern, but everything for the most part's been very good. There is a sales rep in the U.S., so parts are not too big of an issue. He stocks basically any common wear part, all the main parts is in the U.S. if you ever need anything. If something major was to go wrong, they'd probably have to ship it over from Germany, but we never really had too big of an issue. I always try and order my parts throughout the winter, make a list of what I need, get them ordered in the winter, and then that way they can get them in the shipping container and they'll be here in the spring and should have everything we need for the summer, hopefully.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And your particular machine, you guys grow so many different crops. You wanted it to have a certain amount of flexibility. Can you tell us what you were looking for in the machine?
Yeah, so obviously we've never been around a machine like this, and so we wanted something that we could do. Our farm is basically 30-inch rows and 60-inch rows. So our cucurbits we do on 60. So we needed something that could work for both. And so this one, what we liked about this, it has a lot of adjustability. We can switch between 30 and 60 without too much work. And it seemed to fit. Everything's individually adjustable, whether it's depth, spacing. There's so many different options that you can use that really I think is a big benefit. So
okay,
that's one reason we really liked it. It's just different than our normal S-tine cultivator. That you set the gauge wheel for your depth and that's where you're at. This one, everything's individually adjusted, which I can show you later when we get to the walk around. But
and did you kind of do a lot of the designing of the machine yourself? There's so many different parts, or is that something the company pretty much took care of for you?
We kind of told them what we were looking for and explained our situation, being that we needed it to work for two different row spacings. So they pretty much, the cultivator itself, I think, is pretty standard. The camera system was what we struggled with a little bit. So they hadn't, from what I understand, they haven't really had to do that yet. So to make it work for both 60-inch and 30-inch, the engineers had to figure out how to make that work and how to set the cameras up correctly. So that was a little bit of a battle, but they did a good job with it and everything turned out great. And so most machines, I believe, only come with one camera system. I don't know if you can see it back here, but here's the camera right here behind me. Most machines only come with one. They told us that we should have two cameras because of the different row configurations. So originally we were going to have one camera for 30-inch rows be placed right between the two rows. So this one camera will be watching two rows and it'll be sensing both of those. So that would work for anything on 30-inch. And then when I would switch to 60-inch and do squash, I would have one camera set directly above the row, and I would switch back and forth as needed. Well, actually what we found out was that it worked better to have just use one row over 30-inch instead of two. So in the end, we actually got by with moving the camera directly over the row, and that still seemed to work, which they weren't sure if it would or not, but it worked and worked great. So then, now when I'm switching back and forth, I don't have to move cameras from post to post like we originally were going to have to. So a little bit of a learning curve there, trying to figure that out, but it all worked out good, and yeah, I'm very happy with that. So
yeah. from my experience as a machinery rep, there was certain basic info we had to have from farmers to figure out, what type of machine would work for them. And you told us about the type of crops you're using it on. You told us about the type of row spacing. But I would always need to ask too, what was the tire track width? How many rows were they going to be using the machine on at once? The mounting, was it a category 2 or 3? Could you tell us, what are those things on your farm?
Yeah, so it's a 12 row unit, so 12 30-inch rows. And then when I switch to squash, which would be a 60-inch, I'm just basically using every other one. I'm using all the units, but I slide them together to basically fill that gap where there would be a 30-inch row. So it's every other one. And then one thing we really wanted was to match our planter. So we have a 12-row planter. And if I can match my planter, I can adjust almost each row individually to how the planter, say the planter makes a hump in the wheel track. Well, that might be deeper, so you got to lower that shoe. And with this cultivator, you can actually do that. You can lower that individual shoe, so it might be 3 inches deeper than the rest, but it's in that wheel track, still cultivating up weeds. And that way, you can almost pattern with your planter, so you can make those fine adjustments that you can't with some other machines. And you can make those adjustments, and if you keep following your planter path, everything should stay consistent, which it works pretty good. If you can't stay consistent, don't get off track. But
Yeah.
And hitch-wise, we just have a quick hitch. I believe it's category 3. Just pretty standard with what come on the tractor. And what else here? Hitch. What else did you want to know, Sam?
No, I think you nailed it.
Sorry. Wheel spacing. We're on 64-inch centers with our tires, which is a little goofy, but it works. When we do carrots, we actually run beds. So it works for that. So that's what we set everything on, but it works for 60-inch. So basically 60-inch like the rest of a lot of people are. So.
Yeah.
Hey, Jared, I'm going to jump in with a question. It might come up when you get in the cab later, but Carl was asking that other than the camera position, do you have to provide crop information to the camera system? So what type of crop it is or the growth stage?
Yeah. So I'll show that later, but I'll speak on it a little bit now. There's 3 different settings for crop size. It basically just wants to know, it doesn't care what crop you're really doing, but it wants to know, okay, you have a small crop, which I believe is 2 inches or smaller, a medium crop, which is around the 6-inch, and then a large crop, which would be 12 inches or bigger. So you put that setting in, and then you can also adjust color. So if you have crops that are, so you have like a beet or something maybe you're doing that's a little darker, redder tint, you can adjust the color to red, green, or a custom color also if needed. So, and I'll show you more once we get up in the cab and look at the computer. I can kind of walk you guys through that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good segue, Carl, into the tools. Jared, could you start to show us, there's so many different parts on that machine. Could you start out kind of, where the plants are, what's touching the plant, and move up and just show us all the different parts and even the different options for those parts?
Yeah, yep, I can do that. If you just bear with me here, I'll grab the camera and show you a few things.
Cool.
Try not to make you too dizzy here. All right, so get a look at the cultivator here. You kind of get a feel for it. The green part is the Garford quick hitch. Yeah, fold my tripod in here. So we'll start right down by the row. So here I have, there's a lot of different options, but I have the cutting discs on right here. You kind of see them here.
Yeah.
And so I can adjust those. Let me adjust this better so I can get in here. Sorry about that. Yeah, those are all adjustable. I can adjust them from here. I can go forward or backwards with them, so you have a lot of adjustability there. And then the height here. So all you do is loosen this nut, and then you can slide it's basically just a clamp. And you loosen that bolt, and you can adjust your height there or forward and backward. And then right behind that, there's our sweeps. And they're just on a straight leg shank there, just some roll pins that you can swap them out when they wear out. And then
Hey, Jared, can I just interrupt? Those shields, you have them kind of angled away from the roll so they're pulling soil away. Could you just tell us, like, kind of how do you use those shields, or why do you have them?
Yeah, so all right. So usually my first time over with a cultivation, I run the shields. So I try to get in there when the plants are as small as possible where my camera will still pick it up. And, you know, as you guys know, the tighter you can get to the plant, the more weeds you're going to kill. So you try to get in there when the plant's extremely small. And I can typically I would feel fairly comfortable going 1 inch each side of the plant if I have a good image quality. So here, like this one over here, you can see it's a little tighter. And so that would be something like for carrots or small squash, I would run that. And then, yeah, I tip them away so I can I can cut the dirt here and throw it out away. And then I'll let the shovel here kind of do the rest and fill in the gap. So, and then I believe on each one there's 5 sweeps or shovels, and they offer different sizes. There's smalls, mediums, and larges, which I'll show you here in a minute. I can take you around back here. There's just a view from the back of it. So that's an individual unit on a parallel linkage up there.
What's that spring right there in the middle of the parallel linkage, Jared?
Yeah, so right here, that's our down pressure spring. And I don't use that. As you can see, I have it loose right now. Being that we're so sandy, I get plenty of depth as is. I don't need that down pressure. So what we did is, I don't know if you see right there, was a hole there with a roll pin in it, or there was, and that's what basically holds the spring tight to give you your down pressure. So we took those out very first day when the rep from Cult Crest was here. He says, looking at your soil, you guys won't need those. So, but if, you know, some of you guys are in some heavier soil or even clay, that's something you would definitely want. So another good little option there you could use if you had to. And then here is just, this is one of your depth controls. So if you want to adjust this whole unit altogether, you can just lower your gauge wheel down. It's on a jack. You can just lower that up or down. And then, let's see what else we got here. So you got all these tubes mounted in this frame here. And to adjust those, it's just loosen that jam bolt up. You can slide them in or out as you'd like. So you can do each one individually, except for the back one. The back one's stationary. And then if we go all the way to the back, we got the finger weeders. So those I don't run all the time. I wait till my crop gets a little bit bigger before I run the finger weeders. Just because you can do some damage to your crop if it's too small. And being in our conditions with sand, they do move a lot of dirt in sandier soil, so you can bury crops too. So I try and be careful of those and don't use them until my plant's well established, got a good root system, And then you can go in and they do a very good job. That is one thing that I want to put on all our cultivators because they save you a lot of money. And here, they're adjustable in height. Just that tube slides, and then you can slide them in or out on this crossbar here. So right now I have them almost as wide as it's possible. And I believe I was cultivating green beans with these. So I had them widened right out so I could go fast. I wasn't actually going in between each plant. I was actually just pushing a little dirt. Where they spin, I was pushing a little dirt up underneath the plant with them instead of getting right in the plant. And that's some things that a person can play around with. You can get really aggressive with them, so they're actually going through or in the row like that. And they do a very good job that way. Something like corn, where you had a good root system and a nice hard stalk, I think those would work excellent, but I don't have any experience in corn, unfortunately. So
Okay,
next I can show you, or yeah, what else do you want to see on here, Sam?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, cool. You showed us the business end, and now, yeah, moving on. What are we looking at?
I guess I can show you a couple more things here quick. Might help you make a little sense. So some of the different sweeps we have, this company offers 3 different sweeps. So I believe we got like a 5-inch on the left, an 8-inch, and a 11-inch sweep, somewhere close to that. Throw my foot in there for a little reference. And I typically run this larger sweep on the back just because that one moves a lot of dirt. I don't like to run that up tight and close to the row, especially with smaller crops. And then I'll run the smaller sweep right up closer to the row. That'll be the one next to each side of the row. And actually on those, what I'll do is I will cut them in half. So I'll cut, let's see if I can get in here and show you. I'll cut the half of the sweep off. That way I can get it closer to the plant without throwing dirt and burying the plant when the crops are very small. And then here is another style of the finger weeders. These are the orange ones. They're supposed to be a little softer than the yellow ones. We tried those out thinking for sandier soils we might like those, but unless you have 100% consistent field of all sandier, lighter soil, I felt like they didn't work as good because if you get some tougher, harder spots, that's where these yellow ones are quite a bit firmer, and they seem to do a better job for us. Another thing here I can show you. So these are the side knives that came on the cultivator. These were next to each row. And I ran these for a while the first year, and I liked the idea of them, but for our farm and how we do things, they just didn't work. The metal's not as hard as the shanks I'm using now, and we have a lot of rocks. Some fields, you think we're rock farmers, it's pretty bad. But so I was bending a lot of those, and what else was happening was we used quite a bit of cover crops. So our fields aren't perfectly clean. We have some trash, maybe some rye, oats, whatever our cover crop was left in the field. And what would happen is that dead stubble would get plugged up on the front of these and they'd start to plow. And it just wasn't a good fit. So I took them off and replaced them with the normal sweep style. But if you had a nice, clean, smooth field, I think they would work pretty good.
That's nice. The shanks are cranked out to the side, so as your crop, say beans gets bigger, it gives them space without cutting off leaves.
What's that, Sam? Sorry, lost you there.
I was just saying on those side knives, it's nice how the shanks are cranked off to the side. So for say beans or something, as it canopies out, there's room for the plant to pass through.
Yeah, yup. That is a good design. And then here is just one of the vibro springs that clamps on the toolbar there. Pretty just normal design. Here's one of the shanks without the sweep on it. You can see the two holes for the roll pins on the bottom. They just pound out, pound in. It's pretty simple. And then this is one of the cutaway discs. So that's a lot of the parts themselves. If anybody's got any more questions about that.
Yeah, Jared,
ask.
just had a question come in asking if you use row guards.
So actually I use the discs as my guard. The cutaway discs up front here, I'll use those as my guard. So if you can see in here, I'll use those to push some of the dirt out away from the row. So then when that sweep right there comes in behind it, it's not pushing all the dirt back into the row and burying my crop. And
Fantastic.
typically I would run these out and then I could bring that disc back. So it's almost guarding the sweep a little more than how it's set up now. So then I could hold that dirt from flying in the row so I don't bury my crop.
All right,
if you
fantastic. Go to the next
I-
thing.
All right, we can take a look at the hitch here. So that's just the sliding hitch from the back here. I'll get up front and show you a little bit more of it. You can see the camera mounts up here. So here's one camera. If you can get a decent look at it here. Whoops. All right, so one camera there, and then my other one is over on that side. We also have just a gauge wheel there to help support it. So here's the sliding hitch. You got a nice heavy gauge wheel here that I run right behind the wheel track. And then setup's very simple. Just have a quick attach set up here. Pretty common. And it is the Garford RoboCrop. And one thing that I'll tell you guys that I switched this little thing right here is just a little GPS sensor. So on the cultivator, there is two sensors. One here is a lift sensor. So that tells the computer when the machine is up. And if the machine's up, it's not going to try and sense a row. And down here, there's a wheel sensor. It's just reading off that wheel. When that wheel's spinning, the computer knows the cultivator is in motion, so it can look for a row. Problem I was having with that wheel sensor is I was getting sticks and rocks and dirt in there, and it would wear that sensor out and break it. And I went through quite a few of them, and finally I was talking to our sales rep about it, and he said that Cult offers the GPS unit, so you can bypass that wheel speed sensor, and it's just done through GPS. So it took me 4 years, but I finally put it on this year, and glad I did. That works a lot better. I'd recommend that if somebody was to do it. And I don't know if there's any questions about the hitch here before we go up in the cab.
Unless Sam has some, I'm seeing no questions about the hitch on Facebook. Good to go.
You must be answering all the questions, Jared. Nice.
I don't know about that.
Here, I've got
Okay,
one.
here.
I've got one from Rodney. It says machine up, return to center position.
Okay, yeah. So what? Yeah, when I pick the machine up, if I leave my remote in automatic, the machine will automatically return to center each time it's lifted. That's kind of nice. So then when you get back on the row, it's usually pretty lined up as long as the tractor's pretty close. So you can also adjust the width of your support wheels here. There's a big bolt here. This tube slides out of that frame, and you can adjust in or out to the width you need wherever your row spacing might be. And then your height adjustment for your gauge wheel. Just loosen those two bolts up. You can adjust that up or down until you get it set where you like it. I'll show you kind of how it's connected to the cultivator, just so if people wanted to use it for a different application on their own cultivator, I think it would be possible. There's all sorts of bolt holes on this back plate. See if I can get a better view without making you too dizzy. So yeah, there's lots of bolt holes and variations. So somebody could build a bracket to go to their own cultivator if they wanted to. And we'll go up in the cab, I guess.
Got a couple more questions for you coming in. What's the travel distance of the side shift?
I would say, I'm going to guess a foot each way of center. Sam, do you know anything about that? I guess I've never actually measured it myself, but.
Yeah, usually depending on the brand, they're between 6 and 8 inches. It's not a lot in either way. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I got another one for you. 3-point arms locked solid. And does steering the tractor, does it whip the cultivator back and forth?
All right. So I leave my 3-point arms loose. So I pull the pins up in there, and so they can actually sway back and forth, which was opposite of what I thought when we were setting the machine up. But the rep that came over here and helped me set it up said, no, you want to leave those loose. And after running, I kind of see why it doesn't jar the tractor around that way. And these gauge wheels do a pretty good job. They got a pretty good rib there that will sink down into the soil to hold that cultivator steady. So when it's shifting back and forth, it's not jarring your tractor all over the place.
Here's another question here. You don't need any down pressure where the cultivator gang runs in the wheel track?
Well, the down pressure, I would say, all depends on your soil conditions. With us being a lighter, sandier soil, I don't run any down pressure. I just let the weight of the individual unit sink and do its thing to set my depth. If you had heavier soils, you could definitely use down pressure by using those springs. And then you could adjust that to give you however much down pressure you needed.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you hop up in the cab now.
All righty. So here's the computer. Try and get in here. So just have a couple wires. It's kind of plug and play. Just twist locks here and here. And then you just need a 12-volt power source. Then you just have a startup switch over here. Just power that on. And we have, here's our remote here. Pretty simple. Manual, auto. Auto is when you're running the machine. Manual, you can steer manually left or right when you're in manual. Takes a couple seconds to start up, but not too bad.
Yeah. So
All right,
can you
so
show us
here,
there? Yeah, on the display, what are the different components there on the display it's showing?
okay, so here we have just, that's what our camera's looking at right now, this square. It's kind of hard to see. And then up top, I have, see, we're on our left camera now. This will be my right camera. So right now, we're looking at what my left camera is looking at. And down here, if I hit select, that's going to switch to my right camera. So when you're going across the field, you can switch back and forth. I usually put it to whatever camera looks like it has the best quality. Say you might have a row that the stand isn't perfect or a flooded out spot. I'll switch it to the camera that has better image quality, which image quality is right here, the green bar, and it'll go up as the quality's better. Another button here. So if we switch back to auto, try and get in here a little closer, fine offset. So we have fine offset both left and right, and we adjust that by these two buttons here. So what that is say you're going across the field and your camera's in auto, it's sensing the crop, but you feel that it's favoring one side or the other, which does tend to happen sometimes. You're going and man, it's just too far to the left. So what you do is you go in here and you just hit your fine offset. I believe these are 1 centimeter, and you can go 10 each way. So you just hit that, and you can see a little green dot on that bar. Move over. So I can shift to 10 centimeters each way. And that will just basically shift. You can move your cultivator to where you believe is true center if it is a little bit off. Some crops, it might have a hard time picking it up. If it's a really wide crop like a squash, the plant might be 16, 18 inches wide, so it has a hard time distinguishing center of the plant. So that's where something like this can come in and help you. And then right here it's showing stopped. That'll go off once you get moving across the field. But as stopped, it won't let you do anything. And then we'll go on to setup here. I'll show you just some other things. Here's where you can go in and change some of your settings. You really don't have to mess with it too much. The only thing I've really messed with is custom color. And what that is I kind of talked about earlier. Just if you have a crop that is just not a true green color, then you can go in here, you select that, and this gives you a range, and you can adjust this left or right, and you can change that to a purple. You can kind of see that thing changing color there, more of a bluish now. So basically you have a infinite amount of colors you can use. I've played with it a little bit, and it does work. I've gotten some crops where the camera just does not want to do a good job picking it up. I can't figure out why. So I go into custom color, change that a little bit, and try and match it to the color of my crop. And usually that will help me get back on track. So we'll get out of there.
And folks,
here's the
I know I said 120, but I'm going to let Jared keep going here for a little bit and hope you can stay with us. Keep going, Jared.
Oh, all right. I'll kind of hurry things up a little bit. Here's the basic setup. So crop size, small, medium, large. You just scroll over with your bottom arrows. You pick which one you want. So I'll say we're on small crop, 2 inches or less. Then here's the camera configurations. I use the 2-camera, 1-row setup. Everybody might be a little different there. Or I can do just my left camera, just my right camera. And then the only other
question
Go ahead.
on how the camera works in different weather conditions. Does it work in the dark, sunny, cloudy?
It will not work in the dark. They make some lights you can put on it so you can run at night. I've never done that personally. Sunny conditions, I've seen it mess with it when you get a shadow and the camera's looking in the shadow of the tractor and the other camera might be in the direct sunlight. I've seen where that messes with it a little bit, but for the most part, if you have a good stand, it's going to pick up your road just fine. Then you just go green. Here's your color options. I always just run it green, usually. There's red, infrared, or you can do custom. It's a very simple layout, really. You can't really screw anything up. So you just go in there, pick your crop size, pick your camera configuration, and then your color. And you just hit your OK button here, and when you get they will put it in manual here. So that's not sensing any crop. I'll flip to auto, and you can see that line on the screen. That's hunting for a crop. That's looking for a pattern, a row. And you can see the little X's. Those blue X's are what it's determining right now is probably its best guess is a plant. And the red X's are usually, that's bad. The more red X's you have, the poorer your image quality is going to be.
Jared, it sounds like in general this is one heck of a machine in terms of what it can do, but could you also tell us about some of the limitations? Like what kinds of things make this machine not work so well, or when is it just, not going to be able to be used?
Yeah, so what I've noticed, it doesn't like rocks. That's one of its limitations. It's not built it's not built like a tank, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like I said, we have a lot of rocks in our fields. So you get a rock, you'll twist a shank, you might break a sweep. I've actually bent a row unit before, but very rare. So rocks are a problem. They're a problem in the finger weeders also. They'll get jammed up in a finger weeder and it'll lock it up. And next thing you know, you're taking your row out. So if you do have auto steer.
What about like weed pressure or crop size or crop density? Like where is it not enough?
Yeah, so weed pressure, I mean, sooner you can get in there, the better, but we all know that doesn't always cooperate. So I've went through some pretty thick weeds with it before, and it definitely does a better job than, say, our S-Time, which, if you get especially a bigger weed, they'll bounce around it a little bit. To where this is basically going to shear anything in its path. So it does a very good job with that. If you have any grass, it'll do a pretty good job with that too, because that's hard to kill. Other limitations, speed-wise, I've ran it up to 6 miles an hour in a good stand of beans, something a bigger, taller crop where I get good image quality, and it does just fine. But typically I'd say I run more in the 3 to 4 mile an hour range, all depending on how young the crop is or soil conditions.
And Jared, there's some questions in here. Particularly, I know you'll love this one. What was the cost of the setup you got here? And did you look at any other brands? And how did that cost compare? And I guess my question would also be, do you feel like that cost has been worth it?
Yeah, so they're not a cheap machine, no doubt about that. I believe with the cultivator, we got some spare parts with it, the hitch, camera, the whole setup. I want to say we were around the $80,000 range. And don't necessarily quote me on that, but we're in that ballpark. And depending on the size of unit you want and what you want, that price could change. We have 2 cameras. That adds a big cost, getting an extra camera. And was it worth it? Yeah, I think it's paid for itself, or if it hasn't yet, it will in the future. We cut down a lot of hand labor hoeing costs by using it, especially those finger weeders. If I could suggest anything, it would be start getting used to the finger weeders if you don't already run them. They're a big savings. Yeah, overall, I'll go ahead, Liz.
Oh, I was just going to add, there's a related question. Would you run those finger weeders without the camera guidance?
Yeah. Yep, I still would. I have. When the cameras, maybe the crop's too big, the cameras won't work. I'll run the finger weeders. As long as you have straight rows, like if you plant headlands and you're trying to drive the tractor around the headlands, steer the cultivator by hand and watch the finger weeders, that can get a bit much at times, but yeah, I wouldn't have any question about running them without cameras. For sure, you could do it.
Jared, I suppose we had better wrap things up soon. Unfortunately, it sounds like we could talk cultivators all day, but you were nice enough to pull out a few other tools that you use, and I think most people know it's not like there's one magic tool that does it all. Could you maybe just briefly show us, that dual parallelogram that you use to get real close to the row? I know you use a weed zapper and some other things, and just give us some kind of general overview of what other tools you use.
Yeah, yep. Let me get out of the tractor here. We'll go check those out. So here's the dual. We got these when we started doing organic carrots. Pretty nice little cultivator here. I had my doubts when I seen it, but it does work. So this just connects to your toolbar, and I have one mounted over here. I guess I could just show you that. And there's little discs there that are adjustable. You can adjust the angle and the width of those. And then side knives back here to come in behind it and clean it up. I'll show you that over here on a mounted machine. So here we mounted it on a Williston, and we just run it in front of the Williston to kind of see it, trying to get a better angle here. And we just run that, and it does a pretty good job. You can get very close to the row. I think we actually have some pictures of that.
Yeah, Phoebe, if you pull up slide number 6, sorry to interrupt, Jared, but slide number 6, people can see a close-up of those duos and also see that Lilliston working with someone steering it, because that one's not with a camera. That one's manual steered.
Yeah, so there we got, yep, we have a sliding hitch on the front of this Lilliston, just with a manual steer there. That guy's having fun riding in that chair. Yeah, so that is a field of carrots, yep, and cutaway discs in the Williston. So you can get pretty tight to the row. What we did is we came in with this after emergence. This is probably about a month old, I guess it says. And then we would come right back behind it with the camera guided cultivator just to clean up.
If you go to slide 7, Phoebe, you'll see that picture. Sorry to interrupt, Jared.
No, you're fine. So that's right after we went through the Williston. We came through with the cult crest and the cameras, and just cleaned up and smoothed out anything that the Wilson might have missed. You can see we're getting pretty close there, and if that gives you any idea of how small of a crop that camera will pick up, I guess that's kind of a good example. I know it's hard to see, but that's those are carrots, and they're probably 2 inches tall. So, and we were getting an inch each side of the row, I would say, maybe slightly less. So, but the cameras aren't perfect. You know, they will screw up. You will take out plants here and there. So what I've noticed, it's nice if auto steer is an option for you, to run auto steer, and then you can focus on the cultivator. Things plugging up in the finger weeders or the camera's technology, it does screw up. It might get lost sometimes if your stand is not perfect. So it'll get lost and you'll take out your crop, but that's part of the game, I guess. So, and
Thanks,
then
Jared. I was just going to say, if we go back to Jared's shop there, maybe a perfect tool to end on might be the weed zapper, just because you do the best you can, and at the end of the day, there may be some weeds that are even bigger than your crop.
Yeah, and hopefully that's not the case, but that's the way it works sometimes. This is actually a new piece we just got about a month ago, so I don't have a whole lot of experience with this, but I used it over some carrots, and it's just kind of a neat piece of machinery. You got a big transformer in the back. So this is the generator unit here. You just put it on a 3-point on a tractor. You run it with your PTO, and then you mount. This is the actual zapper unit. You mount this on the front of your tractor, and those wings fold down. So this is a 30-foot unit. And it will zap anything it touches. So that front bar up here is the one the electricity runs through, and this rear bar is ground. So anything it touches it's going to kill, or at least hopefully it'll kill it. So yeah, the only problem with that is your weeds got to be taller than your crop, and nobody likes that, but sometimes it happens.
Well, Liz, any final questions there?
Just one quick question. There was a question about the small cutaway attachments. Who made them, and what are those called? Maybe the parallelograms you were talking about?
Okay, yeah. So this is also a Cult Crest tool, the Duo. And we just got these from just our U.S. sales rep. And I don't know what they call these side knives for sure, but these came with it. You can run it with or without the side knives. If you just want to run the discs, that's an option too, which we've done before if there's a little bit too much trash in the field. So, yeah, that's a Cult Crest option. And Sam might know a little bit more about that too.
Yeah, that can be a great tool for getting really close to the row with those down cut knives. And probably in fairness, people should know that type of tool is available from other companies like Sutton Ag or Tillmore. You know, you can get a similar tool. Yeah, I suppose, Liz, if that's the last question, we should end somewhat on time. I think it's clear to everyone how much time Jared put into showing us his machine and preparing. And I think on behalf of the hundreds of farmers who are tuned in, Jared, let me say thank you very much for taking the time to share your experience with everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, and hopefully we can all learn a little bit from everything, and everybody can have a good rest of the growing season, I hope.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Phoebe, can you pull up those slides for me?
Yeah.
And
Jared, I know you were nervous about this, but you did so well. We're going to have to make you come back again sometime and give us another tour.
yeah, I was a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, but.
Well, again, thank you so much. And everyone on Facebook, thank you for attending this live event today. If you want to rewatch or share with your friends, you can find the video of this event and many others on PFI's Facebook, the Land Connections Facebook, and on both of our YouTube channels and websites. And we at PFI would also like to thank our major sponsors for their support of our entire virtual field day season, of which this field day is a part as well. Their support makes it possible for us to feature over 60 virtual field days. They're all free of charge, and recordings of them are available on our website, including one about a weed zapper that I posted in the comment box. So feel free to check that out if you're more curious about the zapper. Let's see, today we have conquered the cameras, but hark, we'll be back next week with episode 2, The Awakening, featuring tool setup and adjustments. And for that, we'll be live in the shop with Sam. And though we won't see Jared again this time, we will be with farmer friend Pete Seeley at Springdale Farm near Plymouth, Wisconsin. And for you certified crop advisors in the audience, snap this QR code or email Cassidy at the Land Connection to receive your CEUs. And finally, everyone, please take a few minutes to complete the evaluation posted in the comment box. For participating, you'll be entered to win Field Day swag. I think, well, Sam wasn't wearing his hat today. I'm shocked, but a really great Midwest Mechanical Weed Control Field Day hat or water bottles. And most importantly, we'll receive your feedback. So until next time, stay healthy, help your neighbors, and in the Star Wars themed spirit of these events, may the Force be with you.